Part 4. The Return of the National Goddess. Author, Yun Suya. Chapter 31. Chapter 31, Seat Changing Incident. Change of seat controversy. But, Xia Ying already has a desk mate. Teacher Li Mu seemed a little embarrassed. The girls in the class all looked at Xia Ying. Damn it, it's Xia Ying again. How come it's her turn to do anything good? Mu Niankai gritted her teeth and stared at Xia Ying, holding the pen in her hand tightly. Xia Ying had just broken up with Hanzija, and Jun Chennai said that she wanted to be the same table mate as Xia Ying. Mu Niankai had already smelled a threat in Xia Ying. She originally knew that Jun Chennai was coming to Guangyang, although this would give her a chance to have close contact with Jun Chennai. But because Xia Ying was so eye-catching, Mu Niankai had long been worried that Jun Chennai would fall in love with Xia Ying, so that day she was eager to find out whether Xia Ying was with Hanzija. Mu Niankai was originally very happy when she heard the result. Who knew they broke up so quickly? And just on the day Jun Chennai came here, Xia Ying broke up with Hanzija, and now Jun Chennai has obviously noticed the stunning Xia Ying, which is really annoying. So, I wonder if Xia Ying's table mate can change seats. Jun Chennai curled his lips and smiled softly. Xia Ying looked sideways at Xia Menjian and told her not to do this with her lips. Although Xia Menjian was a little envious and jealous that Xia Ying could have such a perfect fiancé, the most important thing at the moment was not to be a nymphomaniac. Thinking of this, Xia Menjian ignored Xia Ying's warning and nodded. Sure. Xia Menjian looked back at Mu Niankai and said, Teacher, there is no one in the seat to the left of Mu Niankai. Can I pass? Can. Teacher Li Mu nodded. Xia Menjian quickly packed her things and prepared to change seats. When Xia Ying saw this, she said directly, Teacher, I don't want to. Teacher Li Mu was puzzled. Jun Chennai's face darkened, and the whole class turned to look at Xia Ying. Teacher, the seat next to Mu Niankai is empty, why not let Jun Chennai sit with her? I think it's good for Xia Menjian and I to sit together, and I don't want to change. Xia Ying said in a neither humble nor arrogant tone. Since Mu Niankai likes this Jun Chennai, she just helps her and saves herself a lot of trouble, so why not do it? In case Jun Chennai becomes her roommate, that girl Mu Niankai will always hold a grudge against her and cause trouble for her from time to time, which she can't bear. Do you, Xia Ying, have any objections to me? Jun Chennai said slowly. Everyone agrees to change positions, but you're the one who doesn't want to. I just thought it was easier and didn't think much about it. Xia Ying replied lightly. I think the time we spent talking is enough to change places, Jun Chennai continued, and then gave Xia Menjian a wink. Xia Menjian understood immediately, quickly packed her things and ran to Mu Niankai's side. Look, it's quite simple, Jun Chennai smiled lightly. Xia Ying held her forehead helplessly and watched Jun Chennai walking towards her. Sister Niankai, please take good care of me in the future. Xia Menjian smiled and extended a friendly hand to Mu Niankai. Mu Niankai glanced at her coldly and ignored her. She was so angry now that she had no intention of talking to her new desk mate. Xia Menjian lowered her head and smiled sinisterly, then raised her head and said to Mu Niankai, Sister Niankai, I heard that you and Jun Chennai are childhood sweethearts. Mu Niankai rolled her eyes at Xia Menjian. What does this girl mean? Ready to take a dig at her? But, what you don't know, Sister Niankai, is that Sister Xia Ying and Jun Chennai are actually an unmarried couple. Xia Menjian continued. Mu Niankai's face suddenly darkened. You're talking nonsense. If Brother Chen Yi has a fiancé, how could I not know about it? I only found out about it yesterday. Xia Menjian continued, actually, I don't understand it either. Sister Xia Ying already has a boyfriend, but she still went to the Jun family for a banquet yesterday. It is said that the Jun family is very satisfied with Sister Xia Ying. If nothing else, they will get engaged in the future. Alas, it's not the fault of Sister Xiaoying. Jun Chenai is so handsome, everyone would be attracted to him. It's a pity that Hanzija is a senior, and Sister Xiaoying only met him yesterday. As for Jun Chenai, he dumped senior Hanzija today. End of this chapter. The Return of the National Goddess. Author, Yun Suya. Chapter 32. Chapter 32 Shadow Traveler is popular. Mu Niankai's eyes darkened as she listened to Xia Menjian's narration. So it turns out that the reason why Xia Ying dumped Hanzija today was because she fell in love with Jun Chenai, who just happened to transfer to another school today, so she couldn't wait to get rid of her single. Humph, this woman is really scheming. However, I will not let you get it so easily. I have liked Brother Chenai for so many years, so I will not give it to a woman like you so easily. Mu Niankai thought angrily and tightened her grip on the pen, the veins on her hand bulging. Xia Ying opened the book and glanced sideways at Jun Chenai. Jun Chenai looked leisurely, listening to the lecture and taking notes, as if nothing happened. Why do you want to sit at the same table with me? Xia Ying asked straight to the point. Jun Chenai looked at Xia Ying, isn't it possible? Why? Xia Ying is still obsessed with this issue. What do you think? Jun Chenai asked Xia Ying. Xia Ying felt that chatting with Jun Chenai was a waste of time, so she simply stopped continuing the topic. Xia Ying looked around at the wolf-like eyes and sighed, not knowing how much unnecessary trouble Jun Chenai would bring to herself. Xia Ying came home at night, turned on the computer, and was ready to see how her new song was doing. It doesn't matter if you don't see it, but you will be shocked when you see it. In just 1 week, Shadow Traveler has already topped the original new song rankings. The comments for this song are all positive, even though folk songs are not very popular in this era. However, Xia Ying's clear and melodious singing has moved many people. Some people even said that this song helped them get through a very depressing period. They like this song very much and hope that Thornbirds can produce more good songs. Many people also said that at a time when sad ballads dominate the internet, the light and melodious Shadow Traveler is a breath of fresh air. Not only is the melody nice, but the lyrics are also brilliant. At present, the playback volume of Shadow Traveler on this original music website has reached 270,000 plus, and it is still growing. Thornbird's homepage shows that the current number of fans has reached 50,000 plus. The name Thornbird immediately became popular on music forums, and many people began to pick up the sound of Thornbird to see if it was the trumpet of a certain music celebrity. It turned out that the voice of the Thornbird was highly recognizable, and it was obvious that it was a brand new voice, the voice of a talented singer. Xia Ying took a deep breath and prepared to release her second song. For the second song, Xia Ying is still preparing to release the song she wrote in her previous life, Genius Dreamer. Genius Dreamer and Shadow Traveler are the sister double title songs of Xia Ying's first album in her previous life. Unlike the melodious Shadow Traveler, Genius Dreamer is a song with a hip-hop style. There is rap and English in it, which was a relatively popular form in the previous life. It's just that there are still relatively few in this era. Since the format of Genius Dreamer is relatively diverse, Xia Ying decided to spend 2 days recording this song and strive for perfection. Today, Xia Ying decided to record the chorus first and then record the rest tomorrow. By the time Xia Ying finished recording the song, it was already past 9 o'clock in the evening. Xia Ying walked out of the room and happened to meet the housekeeper walking towards her. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Return of the National Goddess. Author, Yun Suya. Chapter 33. Chapter 33 The tutor is replaced by Yu Lingfeng. Miss, Master Yu is here. The housekeeper said to Xia Ying. Xia Ying frowned, why is Yu Lingfeng here? Okay, I know. Xia Ying said and walked straight towards the living room. Sure enough, Yu Lingfeng was sitting on the sofa with a straight face. At this time, Xia Chuanhai hadn't come back yet. Luo Xian went out to go shopping with her best friends, and Xia Ying and Xia Menjian were the only ones at home. Xia Menjian saw Yu Lingfeng coming and walked over to show her courtesy. They were serving tea and water, and talking to each other, but Yu Lingfeng was like a statue the whole time and ignored her. Xia Ying leaned to the side and looked at the scene with amusement. Looking at this, does Xia Menjian have a crush on Yu Lingfeng? Xia Ying smiled and walked towards Yu Lingfeng. Yu Lingfeng noticed Xia Ying approaching, looked up at her, and stood up. How did you come? Xia Ying asked directly. Yu Lingfeng looked at Xia Ying and replied expressionlessly, have you forgotten? Tutor. Tutor. Xia Ying frowned, wait a minute, wasn't it 11 Ju who promised to be a tutor last time? Why did you become Yu Lingfeng? Yu Lingfeng saw Xia Ying's confusion, so he explained, Zihu is very busy and has many things to do, so I will be your tutor for him. Xia Ying blinked and looked at Yu Lingfeng with a blank expression. Yu Lingfeng walked straight towards the study, leaving Xia Ying there who had not yet reacted. Wait, why does Xia Ying feel that Yu Lingfeng has become somewhat unpredictable to her since she met Yu Lingfeng in this life? Although Xia Ying didn't understand this person in her previous life. Forget it, don't think about it anymore. Xia Ying turned around and followed Yu Lingfeng. Xia Menjian stood there and smiled bitterly, haha, what's going on? Yu Lingfeng and Xia Ying? Is it possible for the two of them to do it? What's wrong with it? Xia Ying and Yu Lingfeng came to the study room, and Xia Ying slowly took out her homework book. Yu Lingfeng sat aside with a calm expression. Well, Yu Lingfeng, which subject should we start from? Xia Ying asked weakly. Physics, I remember the last time you took the comprehensive science paper, physics was the worst. Xia Ying has a black face. Indeed, her physics is the worst among the science subjects. But there is no way. She spends the most time on physics, but she still can't get in. Every time, I barely pass the test, and sometimes, forget it, I won't mention it anymore, and I burst into tears. Xia Ying opened the physics problem book and started working on it. Yu Lingfeng stood up and went to find a copy of Parallel Universe on the bookshelf at the back. Then he sat across from Xia Ying and started reading slowly. Xia Ying glanced at Yu Lingfeng's book. What is a parallel universe? Why are the books this guy reads so weird? Xia Ying also noticed that Yu Lingfeng was wearing a black watch on his left hand. Well, this guy's hands are also very good looking, with well-defined joints and white, long, and thin fingers. He is really the best in his hands. Yu Lingfeng noticed Xia Ying's gaze, glanced at her, and said, do your question seriously. Oh. Xia Ying curled her lips and continued to do the questions. Yu Lingfeng, I'm done. Xia Ying pushed her exercise set in front of Yu Lingfeng. Yu Lingfeng put down the book and focused on Xia Ying's exercises. As Yu Lingfeng's gaze moved downward, Xia Ying noticed that his expression was getting more and more ugly, and his brows were knitted together. Xia Ying covered her eyes and didn't dare to look at Yu Lingfeng's expression. She could guess how badly she did. Because she has always performed stably in physics. After some investigation, the name of the female supporting character has been changed again. I am particularly sorry to bring you a bad reading experience. Xiao promises that this is the last name change. Xia Menjian bows and apologizes to the previous Xia Yan or the new cutie who saw Xia Yunduo. End of this chapter. The Return of the National Goddess. Author, Yuan Suya. Chapter 34. Chapter 34. Just get used to it. Yu Lingfeng's face darkened, and he looked up at Xia Ying, who was covering her face and not daring to look at him. How do you achieve an 85% error rate? Yu Lingfeng frowned and asked Xia Ying seriously. It's not sarcasm or ridicule, he simply doesn't know how Xia Ying can solve such a physics problem that in his eyes is completely pediatric. So, she just spent an hour blindly thinking? No, Xia Meng's accuracy rate should be higher than hers. Xia Ying silently removed her hand, revealing a face full of grievances. I told you that I'm bad at physics, and didn't you already know that? Yu Lingfeng frowned, but these questions are very basic. I know. Xia Ying doesn't want to do everything right like him. However, she has this kind of strength, what can she do? Come here. Yu Lingfeng suddenly softened his mind when he saw Xia Ying's appearance. He suppressed his temper, picked up Xia Ying's physics textbook, and opened it. The physics notes in it are quite comprehensive, and it seems that Xia Ying really paid attention to them. Xia Ying stood beside Yu Lingfeng. Yu Lingfeng slowly opened Xia Ying's physics book, holding a pen in his right hand, and quickly browsed Xia Ying's physics book. Then she drew circles and outlined many knowledge points that Xia Ying needed to remember. First of all, you don't have a firm grasp of the basic knowledge in the textbook. If you want to improve your physics scores, you must first understand these basic definitions in the textbook, then understand all of these examples. Yu Lingfeng was meticulous throughout the whole process, and Xia Ying nodded obediently. At this time, Yu Lingfeng didn't know which page he had turned to, and suddenly a small blue note fell out. Xia Ying frowned and was about to bend down to pick it up, but Yu Lingfeng's long hand grabbed her first. Yu Lingfeng picked up the fallen blue note, with a sentence written on it in strong strokes, "Love a goddess Xia Ying." There were many colorful little hearts beside it. Xia Ying held her forehead helplessly. She herself didn't know how the note ended up in her book, but she was used to it. Ever since she was a child, every time she came home from school, she would always find a love letter or a small note of confession in a corner of her school bag. However, it was quite embarrassing to be seen by Yu Lingfeng. Xia Ying took advantage of Yu Lingfeng's lack of attention and snatched the note away. She smiled awkwardly and said, "Well, you continue." Yu Lingfeng looked up at Xia Ying, who was smiling stiffly, with a cold face. "Who wrote it?" "Ah." Xia Ying frowned, but she didn't react. "Is that the note Yu Lingfeng is referring to? Who wrote that note?" I don't know." Xia Ying became a little flustered when he asked her this question. Damn it, I don't know why, but whenever Yu Lingfeng's dark eyes stared straight at her, she always felt a little at a loss, and a feeling of fear arose in her heart. "Have you and Hanzija broken up?" Yu Lingfeng turned his attention to the textbook again and changed the topic. "Separated." Xia Ying replied in embarrassment. She didn't understand why Yu Lingfeng kept struggling with this issue. She also broke up with Hanzija last time. "Well, Yu Lingfeng, actually you don't need to worry about this kind of inexplicable note, just get used to it. Let's continue with the class." Xia Ying tried to pull Yu Lingfeng back to physical tutoring. Yu Lingfeng moved his fingers on the textbook and frowned. "Is it okay to get used to it?" "So, she is often confessed to?" "Thanks to the little cutie fashion queen for the tip. Please give me a recommendation vote." End of this chapter. The Return of the National Goddess. Author, Yuan Suya. Chapter 35. Chapter 35. Yu Lingfeng actually smiled. Yu Lingfeng. Xia Ying saw Yu Lingfeng was in a daze for a long time, so she called him. Yu Lingfeng calmed down and said, "First take a look at the knowledge points I drew for you." Yu Lingfeng handed the book to Xia Ying. Xia Ying took it, sat aside, and started reading silently. Yu Lingfeng stared at Xia Ying expressionlessly. Xia Ying felt a little uncomfortable when he looked at her, but she couldn't say it clearly. In other words, she really didn't understand Yu Lingfeng. She always thought there was something weird about him, but she couldn't explain it. At this time, Xia Menjian came over. The sound of Xia Menjian opening the door made Yu Lingfeng divert her attention. However, After Yu Lingfeng glanced at Xiamenjian, she showed displeasure. Then, he calmly picked up the book he had just put down and started reading. Xiamenjian pretended that she just came here to find a book to read. In fact, she was secretly observing what Xia Ying and Yu Lingfeng were doing here. Looking at it like this, is Yu Lingfeng supervising Xia Ying's studies? Xiamenjian investigated Yu Lingfeng and learned some things about his father. She also knew that Yu Lingfeng's father and Xia Ying's father had a very good relationship, but based on her investigation results, Yu Lingfeng had always stayed in his castle before, rarely coming out, and the frequency of entering the Xia family was also very rare. I just don't know why, but Yu Lingfeng has been coming to Xia's house frequently recently, looking for Xia Ying. This man, just like his father, is a mystery. Xiamenjian found a book and left. Xia Ying felt drowsy the more she read, and it was getting late now, so Xia Ying felt even more sleepy. To be honest, Yu Lingfeng was reading something about a parallel universe. Didn't he really feel like falling asleep while reading it? Yu Lingfeng noticed that Xia Ying was dozing off, but he had no intention of waking her up. Because he found that she seemed quite cute like this. Yu Lingfeng held his head with his hands and stared motionlessly at Xia Ying, who was dozing off. Xia Ying's long eyelashes trembled slightly, and her small and delicate mouth was slightly raised. She looked very charming and cute. Yu Lingfeng glanced sideways, glanced at the blue note just now, frowned slightly, and showed displeasure. Xia Ying suddenly jerked and hit her head on the table, then woke up suddenly. Xia Ying frowned and rubbed her injured forehead. I have to say that it really hurt. Xia Ying gasped and looked up in the direction of Yu Lingfeng. For the first time, she saw Yu Lingfeng smile. Although it was a very dull smile, the corners of his mouth were slightly raised, and the light in his eyes became gentler. However, for Xia Ying, this was the first time she saw Yu Lingfeng xiao. In the last life, Yu Lingfeng's impression on Xia Ying was that of a statue that always had a straight face. In this life, it was similar. Xia Ying almost forgot that Yu Lingfeng was also a normal flesh and blood person, a person with a smile. Although, this smile was mocking. I'm sorry, I tend to fall asleep when I read a book. Xia Ying explained in embarrassment, rubbing her forehead. It still hurt. I know. Yu Lingfeng didn't seem surprised. Xia Ying was confused. What did he mean by knowing? Is he mocking her? Before Xia Ying had time to think deeply, Yu Lingfeng stood up and walked out the door. I'll come back tomorrow, remember to read, and I'll test you. Yu Lingfeng finished speaking, opened the door and went out. No. Xia Ying answered lazily. Xia Ying silently packed her books and prepared to go back to her room to rest. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Return of the National Goddess. Author, Yun Suya. Chapter 36. Chapter 36 Shock. National hero Jun Cheniai's love affair exposed. The next day, when Xia Ying got up, she was read by an article titled Shocked, I was blinded by the post national god Jun Cheniai's love affair revealed. Mainly because she is the heroine of this post. A few days ago, Xia Ying went to Jun's house for dinner and was secretly photographed by the paparazzi. Then Jun Cheniai transferred to Guangyang and Xia Ying became table mates. In order to maintain his relationship, Jun Cheniai decided to transfer to another school and became his roommate with his little girlfriend Xia Ying. Xia Ying remembered that when she went to Jun's house for a banquet in her last life, the exact same report appeared the next day. Sure enough, nothing has changed at all. Suddenly, Xia Ying and Jun Cheniai's post forums also exploded. Various similar posts also flooded in. A national male falls in love with a national daughter, do you like this pairing? Jun Cheniai is in love, Have you fallen out of love today? Thousands of girls fell out of love overnight. Jun Chennai is suspected of falling in love with a has-been child star. The first young girlfriend of the imperial capital and national male Jun Chennai is revealed. Is it her? Xia Ying clicked on Jun Chennai's post. There were those who were supportive and those who were against it. Of course, for Jun Chennai, who was now famous and had a lot of fans, no matter who his first girlfriend was, 90% in all cases, it is not accepted by fans. In the eyes of fans, no one can be worthy of their male Jun Chennai. Jun Chennai's number one fan girl. Is there any mistake? How can Xia Ying be worthy of our young master Jun? He is just an unknown child star. Hype, definitely hype, and he must be trying to use our young master Jun to become famous. Uller over that person named Xia Ying. Besides being good looking, she really has nothing to offer. Not a good match at all. Okay. My young master deserves better. Actually, I think Xia Ying and Mr. Jun are quite charming. Personal thoughts, don't comment if you don't like it. Who is Xia Ying? He's just a child star who has filmed a few commercials. He just looks good and has a nice voice. Don't think that just because he is a national daughter, he is trying to seduce our young master. Summer cherry blossoms. Hey, Jun Chennai's fans, please don't talk too much, okay? What happened to my little princess Xia Ying? Why am I not worthy of you, Jun Chennai? I also think Jun Chennai's paralyzed face is not worthy of our little Sakura. On the top floor, Sakura never hypes up. Please don't be blind, okay? It was obviously your Jun Chennai who came over to be Xia Ying's desk mate. My cousin was in their class. Did you witness it with your own eyes? If you don't know, don't talk nonsense. You can take me away without explanation. Some people who criticize my little Sakura have had enough hype. What happened to the child star? What happened to the commercial? Besides, my little Sakura is busy studying right now, and I don't want some people to have the time to go around making movies instead of studying. Xia Ying raised her eyebrows helplessly. She had long been used to the scoldings on the internet. When Xia Ying went to school, she met Muni Ankai's group standing on the road while walking on the road. Muni Ankai and the others also noticed Xia Ying. Muni Ankai's face was ugly, and she stared at Xia Ying with eyes that could spit out fire. Muni Ankai walked towards Xia Ying. Xia Ying walked forward calmly, not looking at her more and pretending not to see her. Xia Menjian followed Xia Ying silently and glanced at Muni Ankai. Robbery, all the recommendation votes are paid. End of this chapter. The Return of the National Goddess. Author, Yuen Suya. Chapter 37. Chapter 37. She is most afraid of mice. Muni Ankai glared at Xia Ying with dark eyes, as if she wanted to eat Xia Ying alive and then swallow her into her belly. Muni Ankai and others were sitting on the seats. Sun Han stood behind Muni Ankai like a dog, with his waist bent and a standard smile on his face. He squeezed Muni Ankai's shoulders, trying to calm her down. Hey, does the method you think of work? Muni Ankai curled her lips, feeling a little hesitant in her heart. Not to mention that when Xia Ying came to Guangyang, she had completely robbed her of her halo, but now it was better. Jun Chennai, whom she had loved so much, had also been taken over by Xia Ying. Muni Ankai couldn't help but grit her teeth when she thought of this. According to her personality, she was lucky not to go looking for Xia Ying with a knife early in the morning. It works, it works. Sun Han said, Xia Ying is most afraid of rats. When she was at Imperial Butterfly College, she suffered campus bullying. She was locked up in the basement by a group of girls, and there were a bunch of rats in it. So, she left a shadow. If you see a mouse, you will be afraid. Humph, this woman is overestimating her abilities. When she competes with me for Brother Chenyi, I will take good care of her. Muni Ankai opened her mouth in a pout and crossed her legs, acting like a big sister. Yes, Yes, Sister Niankai is right. Sun Han kept echoing. Xia Ying walked to the locker and prepared to put her skull bag. Just as Xia Ying was about to open the locker, Xia Ying suddenly turned around and glanced at Mu Niankai, who was sitting on the table not far away and staring at her with evil intentions. Mu Niankai saw Xia Ying suddenly turn her head and meet her eyes before opening the locker, but she still had an expression that was half smile but not a smile that she couldn't figure out. Mu Niankai and the others turned their heads guiltily and did not stare at her. Xia Ying had already expected what would happen, so she slowly opened the locker and saw the fake mouse in the corner. Heh, what hasn't she seen in her previous life? Maybe when I was a girl, I was indeed afraid of rats, but no matter how scary rats were, would they be scarier than human hearts? Xia Ying grabbed the fake mouse, covered her movements with her skull bag, and put it into her fat school uniform pocket. Xia Ying took out the books for class later, closed her locker, turned and walked towards her seat. When Xia Ying passed Mu Niankai's seat, she quietly threw the fake mouse into Mu Niankai's drawer with lightning speed. Then he walked to his seat expressionlessly and sat down. Mu Niankai and the others were stunned, watching in disbelief as Xia Ying, with her back straight, was meticulously preparing for her homework, with no trace of emotion on her face. Wait, what's going on? Is she suddenly not afraid of mice? Mu Niankai had a dark face and turned her head to look at Sun Han behind her, who was also confused. Did you forget to put it away? Mu Niankai asked. Sun Han quickly waved his hand. No, Sister Nian Chi, I swear, I will definitely let her go. Then why didn't she react at all? Mu Niankai rolled her eyes, very unhappy. I do not know either. Sun Han scratched the back of his head and said aggrievedly. Humph, it's useless. If I had known it, I wouldn't have listened to you, and it would have made me excited for nothing. After Mu Niankai finished speaking, she walked towards her seat angrily. Mu Niankai sat on her seat with an angry face, glaring at Xia Ying's back. When she thought about her brother Chen Yi being so close to Xia Ying as table mates every day, her heart felt like it was being cut by a razor blade. As if. Thanks to the little cutie, your name for the reward. End of this chapter. The Return of the National Goddess. Author, Yuan Suya. Chapter 38. Chapter 38. Mu Niankai's baggage was shattered on the ground. Sun Han silently lowered his head and said nothing, still thinking about why Xia Ying was not frightened by her simulated mouse. Mu Niankai stared at Xia Ying while reaching into the drawer to take out the textbook. However, Mu Niankai's hand suddenly touched something cold and damp. Mu Niankai's body trembled violently, and the hairs all over her body immediately trembled. Mu Niankai trembled and took out the unfamiliar object in her hand. Then when she saw a mouse, Mu Niankai suddenly screamed regardless of the image. The mouse was thrown away by her. Far away, Mu Niankai was so frightened that her legs weakened and she sat down on the ground, her eye circles immediately turning red. One face was so frightened that it turned pale and pale. Sun Han was stunned, looking at the mouse on the ground in a daze. Oh my god, isn't that the mouse she put in Xia Ying's locker? Why did it end up in Mu Niankai's drawer? Before Sun Han could figure out what was going on, Mu Niankai suddenly pointed at Sun Han and yelled, Sun Han, did you do it on purpose? Sun Han quickly waved his hand and hurriedly defended, no, Sister Niankai, it's none of my business. After Sun Han finished speaking, he suddenly turned to look at Xia Ying. Xia Ying turned around and looked at Mu Niankai, who was sitting on the ground in a panic, crying and howling. The corners of her mouth raised, revealing a proud smile. Mu Niankai's appearance made the whole class burst into laughter. Oh my god, it's just a fake mouse. Miss Mu doesn't have to be so squeamish, right? Ha ha ha, can a fake mouse be made to cry? It's really useless. Are you so scared? Mu Niankai's baggage was shattered on the floor. Muni Ankai listened to the laughter and ridicule around her and looked at Xia Ying aside. Judging from her normal and reasonable look, she was probably the one responsible. She must have thrown Sun Han's mouse into her drawer to make her look embarrassed. This woman is so scheming. Muni Ankai became angrier as she thought about it, then pointed at Xia Ying and scolded, "Xia Ying, you framed me. I didn't expect that. You may be gentle and pleasant on the surface, but you are so dark behind the scenes." Xia Ying sneered when she heard this. Is there something wrong with Muni Ankai's IQ? If she had suppressed it and not said it out loud, she would have just admitted that she was unlucky and let it pass. Does she want to tear off her mask by beating her like this? Well, since people have come to beat her up, Xia Ying will give her a ride. Xia Ying looked innocent, looked at Muni Ankai, and said, "Muni Ankai, you can eat whatever you want, but you can't talk nonsense. Why do you say it was me who did it without any evidence? Who else but you?" Muni Ankai said angrily. Xia Ying curled her lips, smiled lightly, and said, "There is no evidence, you are slandering." "That's right, why did Xia Ying scare you with a fake mouse?" Well, Muni Ankai has always liked to target Xia Ying, not just for a day or two, but this time it went too far. She pointed at others and scolded them, so she should provide evidence first. Muni Ankai's burden has been broken again. You. Muni Ankai was so angry that she couldn't speak. Why were all these people protecting Xia Ying? It's really disgusting, huh? At the end of get out of class, Xia Ying walked to the locker and prepared to take down the books for the first class. Muni Ankai and his group blocked her way. Xia Ying was helpless and said with a cold face, "What other tricks do you want to play? Just admit it, it was you who did it." Muni Ankai said angrily. Remember to vote for recommendation after reading this. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Return of the National Goddess. Author, Yuen Suya. Chapter 39. Chapter 39, Tricks Played by Primary School Students. That's why you framed me first. Xia Ying was neither humble nor arrogant, and continued, last sentence, the trick of using simulated mice to scare people is played by elementary school students, right? Even if you want to frame me next time, please use some clever means. You. Muni Ankai was so angry that she stomped her feet. She shot herself in the foot with a rock. She still had to be criticized by the other party for being too light. Damn, this Xia Ying is so proud. Hey, don't leave, I have something to ask you. Just as Xia Ying was about to leave, Muni Ankai stopped her again. Explain. Xia Ying knew that if she didn't tell this girl clearly, she would probably waste time. Why did you break up with Hanzija? Inappropriate. Xia Ying answered casually. Xia Menjian on the side blinked in surprise. Inappropriate? Isn't Xia Ying's answer too casual? Didn't she love Hanzija desperately in the past? We finally got together, but broke up because they were not suitable? She didn't believe this reason. Then you are brother Chennai's fiancé? No. Then do you like my brother Chennai? Muni Ankai clenched her fists and emphasized my dislike. It's a lie, the media even took photos of you going to his house. Xia Ying was helpless after hearing this. That's just because our two families have a good relationship. Besides, miss, why do you believe in gossipy entertainment news like a textbook? You. Muni Ankai was speechless for a moment. Then why should brother Chennai be your desk mate? Damn, why does this girl have 100,000? As for how she knew what June Chennai was thinking, she still wanted to ask that person. Probably, because I'm pretty. Xia Ying said casually. What? Muni Ankai raised her voice and looked at Xia Ying in disbelief. It's just a joke, why are you so serious? Xia Ying curled her lips, actually feeling that Mu Niankai was a bit silly. The subject of this question is not me, and I don't know how to answer it. Humph, you just have something wrong in your heart. Mu Niankai said angrily. She had always avoided the important questions she asked, so it's strange that she didn't doubt it. Hey, what are you doing? At this time, Jun Chennai suddenly appeared out of nowhere and looked at them indifferently. Ah, brother Chennai. Mu Niankai's face suddenly turned red several shades, and she looked at Jun Chennai with stars in her eyes. Jun Chennai ignored Mu Niankai, but walked around her, walked to Xia Ying, grabbed her wrist and pulled her back to her seat. Hey, Jun Chennai, let me go. Xia Ying kept struggling, but Jun Chennai remained unmoved. Mu Niankai's body was frozen and she stood there with a messy face. Why are you making such a fuss? Didn't you realize that this young master is trying to help you out? Jun Chennai let go of Xia Ying's hand and curled his lips. Let me go. Xia Ying was speechless. He was obviously getting more and more trapped, right? She had almost explained it, but what did Mu Niankai think when he did something like this? Hey, there are rumors on the internet, what are you going to do about them? Xia Ying returned to the topic. The studio will issue a statement tomorrow, so ignore them for now, Jun Chennai said slowly. Easy to say, ignore them. Xia Ying's Weibo and Taiba have exploded now, okay. They are all Jun Chennai's idiot fans who come here to make trouble, saying that Xia Ying is not good enough for Jun Chennai, it must be Xia Ying's hype. Xia Ying hugs Jun Chennai's thigh, everyone there are a lot of unpleasant words. Xia Ying doesn't dare to read the message now. Xia Ying said nothing in the end. I said, are you overthinking something? Jun Chennai suddenly turned his head and looked at Xia Ying with a half smile. Xia Ying was confused by his lackluster words. Huh. I have heard what you just said, Jun Chennai said disdainfully. This woman actually thought that he was coveting her beauty and was her roommate. How funny. I advise you not to have any illusions about me. Although the adults want to bring us together, I don't have any interest in you. Also, I don't have any superfluous thoughts about being your roommate. You'd better make this clear. Young master, please don't slap me in the face in the future / smirk / End of this chapter. The Return of the National Goddess. Author, Yun Suya. Chapter 40. Chapter 40. The things I least want to remember when I was a student. Xia Ying immediately darkened her face after hearing Jun Chennai's remarks. Is this guy so narcissistic? She just said that she was angry with Mu Niankai. Did he really think that was what he was thinking? Don't worry, we both agree on this point, and I don't have any thoughts about you. Xia Ying responded lightly. After hearing this, Jun Chennai raised his eyebrows, looked sideways at Xia Ying, and asked in disbelief, what? Don't you understand? Xia Ying turned her head and looked at Jun Chennai. I don't want to have anything to do with you. The adults' affairs have nothing to do with us, that's all. After Xia Ying finished speaking, she turned around and prepared to leave. Jun Chennai's expression became dull. What do you mean? Is this girl saying she's not interested in him? Is he being disliked? Hey, what do you mean? Do you think I'm not good enough for you or something? Jun Chennai caught up with Xia Ying and asked angrily. Xia Ying frowned, completely confused by Jun Chennai's logic. According to your opinion, all girls must like you, right? Xia Ying asked Jun Chennai. Jun Chennai smiled faintly after hearing this, but if there is a chance to be my Jun Chennai's fiancé, no girl will refuse. Xia Ying twitched the corner of her mouth. Does this person feel too good about himself? Although, he does have such capital. But the girls you mentioned do not include me. After Xia Ying finished speaking, she turned her head away and was not ready to talk anymore. Jun Chennai frowned, looking at Xia Ying's profile, he couldn't help but feel a little bitter in his heart. This is the first time he has met a girl like Xia Ying. Ever since he was a child, the girls around Jun Chennai have only wanted to pester him. As a result, Jun Chennai gradually became inexplicably alienated and disgusted with girls. Growing up, he didn't have many female friends. Because, he regards them as friends, but they just want to marry him. While in class, there was a continuous sound of thunder outside, and the light in the classroom suddenly dimmed. At this time, Xia Ying suddenly thought of something, stopped writing, and fell into deep thought. At this time in the last life, something happened that Xia Ying least wanted to remember when she was a student. Mu Niankai was unhappy that Xia Ying had robbed her of her halo and then her brother Chennai, so she teamed up with Xia Meng together with Yan. She called a group of people to deal with her severely. Xia Ying looked out the window. There were dark clouds and it was going to rain heavily. The weather was exactly the same as in the previous life. It rained heavily that day, and Xia Ying stayed outside all night with bruises all over her body. The Xia family sent someone to look for her all night, and Xia Mengjian also pretended to look for her all night, creating an image for Xia Ying's father, Xia Chuanhai, that Xia Mengjian was kind and liked Xia Ying as her sister. However, Xia Mengjian clearly knew where Xia Ying was, but she deliberately took her bodyguards and servants not to go in that direction, but deliberately took them in the opposite direction. The next day, Xia Ying's embarrassed appearance was seen by Xia Mengjian and a group of classmates. Xia Mengjian deliberately brought so many people to see her embarrassed appearance. Then, in front of so many people, he pretended to be very kind and sent Xia Ying to the hospital. Xia Ying was actually moved by her at that time, and she thought from the bottom of her heart that Xia Mengjian was really doing it for her own good. From then on, he treated her heart and soul, only to find that she was the one who stabbed him in the back and then handed her gauze from the beginning to the end. Xia Ying, Yu Lingfeng, I'm not happy T. Yu Lingfeng, why? Xia Ying, they don't vote for recommendations after reading the book ONGT. And LT, oh. Yu Lingfeng, recommendation votes are all paid. End of this chapter.